Hey everybody, Necroxis here, and we're doing another video where I react, or I guess review, or talk about the latest Avatar Legend of Korra episodes. This week we're just doing two episodes. Episode 6, Old Wounds, and Episode 7, the original Airbenders. And but before I actually get to those episodes, I want to bring up something that I forgot to last week. And it's something that, after I went back and I watched the video and I reflected about how I felt about the first 5 episodes and the season, how the season's going so far. I feel like I had to revise how I feel because last episode, I guess, which was all 5 for a review of all 5 of the first episodes. Last time I said, I think this is a really, really good episode, and me pointing out the negatives is only because I like so much of it. And I think I have to change what I meant because I don't think I believe that anymore. I feel like Season 3, Book 3, whatever you want to call it, it feels very much just like the other 2 books, the other 2 seasons. And what I mean by that, I mean very mediocre. And I'm not even talking about episode 6 or 7 when I talk about this yet. But it's just, I had a chance to talk with other people about the season. One person, namely, was Howie, who also watches Avatar, and him and I spent a good hour talking about Avatar a couple days ago. And it made me realize I don't like as much about this season as I thought I did. There's a lot of continuity, I guess, not really issues, but little blurbs here and there that don't make sense to me. And that's why I wanted to bring this up, because at the end of episode 5, there's a fight between Zahir and Kaya that I didn't even bring up. And it's just because when I wrote the notes, I was kind of in the moment writing them as I was watching the show. And I was so enthralled by the fight that actually happened that I forgot to write the notes. So then when I went now you're seeing how I stumble over stuff in my WoW videos live. So when I went back and, was looking through the video, I noticed that I didn't have them in it. So I wanted to bring it up, and I think it's so ridiculous. It's so stupid and ridiculous and so unbelievable. Like, I can't suspend my disbelief that much that Zahir could somehow beat Kaya. Kaya trained with Katara for her entire life. Katara, one of the best airbenders waterbenders in existence, the best healer in the world, and they say that for a fact in the show, in either Season 1 or Season 2, but they do say it. She trained with her. She trained with Katara, someone who knew bloodbending. And granted, she couldn't use it except on the full moon, but she knew how to do it. She learned it by the end of that episode in the first series. And this person who knew airbending for 3 weeks, a month at the most, somehow beat her. And it just makes no sense to me, and I'm still waiting for them to explain how Zahir is so powerful when he's been airbending for less than a month. And someone in the comments last week said, well, maybe it's because he was studying airbending, like philosophies and techniques and stances and teachings. Maybe he was studying those for his entire life. Even if that was true, even if I suspended my disbelief that much, and before I even continue, let me note that if that is what happens, if that is the storyline they're going with, that's asinine. Because who in their right mind is going to believe a story that some guy who's not a bender studied the airbenders, their techniques, their philosophies, their spirituality concept of their existence, their culture? Who in their right mind would study that who isn't an airbender, on the off chance that they didn't even know would ever even be a possibility, that they suddenly, spontaneously, would get airbending out of nowhere? That is totally unbelievable. That is so ridiculous. So if that is what they end up doing, I might have to be done with the show, because that is so insane that they would try to pawn that off on us as an actual storytelling thread and an actual good story, that I might have to just be like, I'm out, I'm done, I've had a good 3 seasons, but I'm done. I gotta go, I'm done, I'm out of here. But still, even if he did know all of that, even assuming that was the case, knowing how something works versus doing that thing is 2 completely different things. I could read about martial arts for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, but if I never practiced it, and I started practicing it just like 50 years from now, after having studied it for 50 years, and when I say study, I just mean like reading about it. Like not doing any of the moves or anything. If I did that for 50 years and just started doing martial arts, after 3 weeks, I wouldn't be able to kick a martial art master's ass. I wouldn't be able to beat somebody. That's absurd. Doing something and knowing about that thing are two different things. And the fact that Zahira beat Kaya is just stupid. It's asinine. It made no sense. It pissed me off. It took me completely out of the moment of the show. The episode that I actually really liked a lot, which was episode 5, the one with the Metal City, Metal and Linen and Suyin and all that. It took me out of the enjoyment I was having out of that episode so much that I had to actually stop. I remember when I was writing notes, I had to stop and I went and did something else for like 20 minutes because if I would have made the video, I just would have ranted about it for the entire time. And that's why I think I kind of forgot to add it at the end. So here you go. So now let's get into episode 6, called Old Wounds, like I said. And it opens up with another look at the City of Metal, Zaofu, and I still think it's amazing. I still think it is the best city in either series, animation-wise. I think it is fantastic. My phone is going off again. So awesome. But yeah, I think it looks so great. I love the art. I just love the art this season. It's so great. I'm so happy that Studio Mir is doing the show again. So then we get into Suyin, and I'm glad she acknowledged the thing that I actually said last episode. If you go back and watch it, I actually exactly said this. Suyin tells Korra that the Avatar should know all bending techniques, so she should learn metal bending. I said that exact same thing last week. So I'm kind of glad the show acknowledges that. I think she should learn metal bending, and she begins to learn it a little bit, but I think she should. I think she should learn how to swamp bend. I think she should learn how to lightning bend. I think she should learn how to do like that spirit shit that Janora can do, that ghost, whatever spirit ghost or whatever she wants to call it, that we see her do in the show. She should learn how to do all of it. She's the Avatar. She's supposed to know everything. So I'm glad Suyin finally acknowledged that, and I'm kind of glad that Korra's learning to metal bend, because when Suyin says, "Congratulations, you're the first metal bending Avatar," just me as a fan, I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." Like me as an observer of the show, I was like, "Oh, good for Korra." I may not like her sometimes, but good for her. That's really cool. So, and then going in with metal bending, you have the subplot of the episode where Bolin wants to learn metal bending, but he's afraid. And in my notes, I'm going to read exactly what I said. I said, "Holy shit, there's Bolin character development." Because I don't think we've had any character development for that character ever. I don't think he's ever had character development in the series. I think he showed up as the comedic, person who does that kind of thing. That's his only purpose, is to be either the scapegoat for some comedic element or be creating the comedic element. On the very rare occasion he's used for Mako to go save because he needs something. He needs to save him, so they need to give Mako some kind of, emotional connection. So they do that with Bolin. But I'm glad they gave him some kind of character development here. At first I thought it was silly in the very beginning of the episode when Bolin was like, "I don't want to learn how to do earthbending because blah, 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 blah." I was like, that's a really dumb position to take, Bolin, because metal bending is awesome. But then I do enjoy the payoff where it turns out it's not that he doesn't want to learn it, it's that he's scared. So I really like that. And he's scared because supposedly only 1 in 100 earthbenders can metal bend. But then Suyin says that's not the case, so who knows what actually the ratio is, if there is one even. But yeah, great character development for Bolin. I've always thought, since the first season began, that he should know metal bending. I thought it was kind of silly that he never tried to learn it in the show, so I guess it makes sense now that he was doing it on purpose because he was scared. Just like I think Mako should do lightning bending more. I can't recall a time other than the one scene where you see him working in the factory and shooting lightning at the conductor or whatever. I don't think I can recall a time where he uses lightning bending in a fight. And you have to be really strong to use lightning bending. So why does he not use that in a fight more often? I think he should. I think Molin, they're combined. Bolin and Mako, one character, Molin. I think Mako should do lightning bending, and I think Bolin should do metal bending. And can you imagine the kind of cool things the animation team could do with metal bending plus lightning? Like putting lightning in metal bending? Like if they fought together, could you imagine all of the cool shit that they could show us animation wise? That really needs to happen. And now that I put that idea in my own head that I just came up with on the fly, not even in my notes, that needs to happen. I want to see that shit. At the very least, I want to see Mako shoot lightning at stuff, because he's always with Korra. Korra can do water. water and lightning, metal and lightning, fucking combo that shit up, yo. Don't they play any video games? You gotta do combos. So, you know, I'm getting way off track now. So, anyway, back to the episode. So then we cut to Lynn, and we see the actual plot of the episode with her family drama. And I think Lynn being high-strung and stressed out about just life and being back there, I think it makes a lot of sense. I really like where they're going with this character. The whole fact that she ends up going to the acupuncturist, I think it makes perfect sense. I really do enjoy the line where she's like, "I'm not scared of needles." It reaffirms my love for Lynn as a character. And it was a good way of showing us, it was a good way of relaying information to us without it without seeming like they were relaying information to us. And what I mean by that is compare that to episode 1 or 2. I don't remember when the conversation actually happens, but I brought it up in the last video. When the conversation between Mako and Bolin happens, where Mako's basically like, don't you want to, or no, Bolin says it to Mako. Bolin's like, don't you want to come, Mako? Because we never saw our grandma. Don't you want to maybe meet her? Like, that whole conversation's purpose was to tell us as an audience they don't know their family. That's a bad way of relaying information, because I know you're relaying information to us. When they showed the acupuncturist thing with Lynn, they were still relaying information to us, but I felt like it was natural. I believed it. I was in the story. I didn't feel like the creators were just yelling facts at me, which that's how I felt with the Bolin and Mako stuff. So, you know, there's a way to relay information where it doesn't seem tropey. And if Lynn would have just been sick and, like, passed out, and that's how we would have saw the memories, that would have been too tropey. And I think the way that they did it with the acupuncturist was great. It was just on that line enough where they were telling us information while still engaging me in the story. And the reason they did, because the flashbacks were so great. Young Su-Yin sounds exactly like Toph. I was wondering if they use the same voice actress. I'm pretty sure they do. You know, learning how Lynn received her scar was great. I've always wondered that since they first introduced that character. Because, you know, when you see someone with a unique scar on their face, that's like an immediate thing to be like, how did that happen? Like, you know, with Zuko, when you first see him and he's got the burn on his face, you're like, how did he get that burn? We're going to learn that at some point, and then you do, and then you do the same thing with Lynn. I thought it was great. To cap it all off, we see Toph. We see a middle-aged Toph, and that's fantastic. You know, even the episode again reaffirms that Toph is not dead. She's talked about it in the present tense at the very end, so I'm really hoping she comes back at some point. I know there's an episode toward the end of the season called something about, has something to do with the Earth Queen. This episode's like the Earth Queen cometh or some shit like that. I really hope somehow Toph shows up and kicks some ass in Ba Sing Se, because that needs to happen. So, you know, and it was really great seeing what Toph would do for her daughter, even knowing what her position was as chief of police. And it made sense. And I always found it kind of weird when last episode 5, when I guess Lynn kind of implied that Toph was just a terrible mother and didn't care at all about their parent or her kids. And I always thought, when I saw that, I was like, okay, Toph was rough around the edges. That's why she's such a great character and why I love her so much. But her not caring about her kids at all didn't seem like it made any sense. So I'm kind of glad we got to see a neutral perspective of that whole scenario, because when Lynn told us, it was from her perspective. And then Su-Yin herself was like, look, you know, your perspective's kind of skewed. She doesn't say that, but that's the implication of that conversation. Your perspective's kind of skewed. And I'm glad we got to see the neutral perspective, because then we see, oh, she did care about her children. She, like, risked her position to send her daughter away rather than sending her daughter to prison. Like, that's a parent who fucking cares about her kids. So I was glad that they went that route with what actually happened instead of just Lynn saying, she didn't give a shit about us. Because, again, that doesn't make sense for Toph. So, you know, we're getting toward the end of the episode. The confrontation between Lynn and Su-Yin's happening, and, you know, Su-Yin just says the wrong thing. You know, if you're ever in a fight with Lynn or having a heated debate, don't bring up Tenzin, because that's not going to be good for you. However, the metal bending and the earth bending fight that ensues because of this was amazing. It was so good. Even though I find this season to be very mediocre, the fight scenes are just fucking great. They're brilliant. They're so much better than Season 2. They're even better than Season 1, which is funny because it's the same production company, so somehow they even became better. So, you know, even though I complained about Zahir vs. Kaya, that fight was amazing to watch. like, just the animation was fantastic. And then you see the Suyin and Lin fight, and that's great. And, and then they end the confrontation. They begin wrapping up everything. They kind of resolve the differences. And they do so, again, the theme of this episode is going to be tropiness. They do so again by not being too tropey. Lin kind of, Lin apologizes to Suyin, but she doesn't just do like a 180-degree turn like fucking Kai does when he gets captured and suddenly becomes a new character. Lin, she apologizes to Opal, and she apologizes kind of to Suyin, but she still retains that edge to her character, especially when Suyin's basically like, I don't know what would happen to me if I was still in Republic City. And then Lin's basically like, you probably would be in prison. I was like, oh, Lin, you're still there. I love you so much. So, I didn't bring up this episode, the whole anti-Team Avatar thing, which I've already said I'm beginning to care less about, but there's some crap with that in there, and the end really annoyed me because apparently Zahir has like some omnipotence where he can just find out where Korra is, and I don't know if it's related to the necklace that he stole from one of the Airbenders, because it could be, because in the next episode that I'm going to talk about in a second, Kaya makes it a point to bring that up, that he stole it, so maybe. But how does he just like meditate and just find out where Korra is? That doesn't make any sense. Like, he's becoming like a god of an earthbender. And again, remember, he's only been He's only been airbending for, 3 weeks? 4 at the most? So what the fuck? So that's episode 6. Episode 7, the original Airbenders, and I'm very, very conflicted about this episode because there are some things that I really like, there are some things that I really dislike, and then there are some things that were just so predictable that it angered me how boring it was that I could tell exactly what was going to happen halfway through the episode. And I was right. So let's begin. The opening happens, and I think it's so great that Tenzin is just boring his class to sleep. I think it makes perfect sense for him as a character. If he was a real-life teacher, I could see that totally being a thing. I've had a teacher just like that, where they drone on and on, they know what they're talking about, but they're so boring and uninteresting in how they do it, you just can't help but fall asleep. So I thought that was really funny, but then they have a scene where Korra is like giving advice to Tenzin, and even though that was nice, that was a good scene, I couldn't help, the scene itself is fine, but I couldn't help but like notice the disconnect between Korra giving Tenzin advice, but then she always never listens to anybody else's advice, and she is always constantly used by everybody, and she's still being used by people in Season 3. I just thought it was kind of weird that they were establishing that. I don't know if you can even say that's a character flaw anymore, where, every character has flaws, but I don't know if you can even say that Korra giving advice but not taking advice is a flaw anymore, because it's gone beyond that. It's gone beyond that to just willful ignorance of people around her who were supposed to be her advisors. So it was kind of funny. And then, so we cut to, the goddamn 10-mile hike first thing in the morning. Barf to that idea. I would never be able to be an airbender. I'm also too fat to be an airbender, so, who knows, whatever. But, I really like this whole, middle part of the episode where it shows Tenzin beginning to take Bumi's advice, although he kind of takes it in a weird direction, about treating the people like a military group. Because the scene where all the poles, and he's teaching them to balance on the poles, we get to see how masterful of an airbender Tenzin is. And I feel like we don't really get to see that a lot in the show. In fact, we barely get to see how powerful of an airbender Tenzin is. We only really do see that when he has fight scenes. And Tenzin just does not have a lot of fight scenes in the series. I think Season 1, he has maybe two fight scenes in the entire season. Season 2, maybe a couple more, especially at least at the end, a couple episodes when they're in the spirit world, he has a bunch. But there's never really a lot of places and times and ways for them to show how great of an airbender he is. And I just want to say, as my second favorite character now, which you'll note, last episode I said he was my first. Lin is now my favorite character, officially. As my second favorite character, I really like that they're finally beginning to show us, look, this guy is fucking powerful. He did all of that shit with, not even thinking about it. So, it's good. I liked it. It was a good choice. And, segueing again into the whole, shaving your head's a personal choice. And just after shaving that guy's head, and everyone's like, I don't think I'm going to do it. It's so good. I really, really like the way that they use Tenzin for comedy. I think it's so much more natural than how Bolin gets used for comedy, because Bolin's comedy, it seems like, is the lowest of the low of the barrel. Like, it's the stupidest comedy possible. It's like even worse than slapstick comedy, if that's possible, in terms of complexity at least, because I love slapstick comedy. But in terms of complexity, slapstick comedy is not it's not complex. It's just people hitting each other and stupid shit like that. I feel like Bolin's comedy is even more simplistic than that. It's like the dumbest possible comedy. But Tenzin's is more like, I'm not a comedian, so it's hard for me to put the words to what I'm trying to say. But Tenzin's comedy is more like, he's just noticed. There's a phrase for this that's escaping me right now. But it's about like comedy about the world and just how natural the world is and how the world works, I guess. Oh god, the word's right on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it. Anyway, that's how Tenzin's comedy is. It's a little bit more sophisticated. I think it's a lot funnier when they do it and they pull it off. Like, the whole scene with shaving your head, I thought was hilarious. Like, I literally laughed out loud. That's how funny I thought it was. And, with Tenzin, you always have Milo. Whenever there's Milo, there's going to be comedy. And, he has, like, slapstick comedy, too. But I don't know why. I still think it's so much better than Bolin's. Maybe it's because he's a little kid. Maybe that's why. I can't put my finger on it. But, Milo, it was great, his little scene. But then we get to, I guess, the midway point of the episode where Jinora and Kai, who I haven't brought up yet, but you know what? Fuck, I hate Kai. God, I hate him so much. I can't... Ugh. I was hoping so much he would die at this point. He would die somehow in this episode. They've killed off characters before, by the way, in Avatar. Compared to WoW, I am not great with names in this universe. Jet was what I'm thinking of. Jet in the first season, they just flat out kill him off. You don't see him actually die, but he dies in the first series. After they escape, the Dai Li, he dies. So, there's not unheard of to kill off characters in the show, and I just don't... I know they wouldn't do it violently, but I was kind of thinking, I hope the Air Bison just fucking kill him, because I can't stand him as a character. But when Jinora and Kai get kidnapped, I knew instantly what was going to happen, because the episode was setting up the fact that Tenzin was having a hard time training the Airbenders, and he was trying different things, and none of the Airbenders were really responding to it. Everyone thinks he's a terrible teacher, and no one's going to learn anything, and Tenzin flat out says, no one's going to learn, I'm a bad teacher. So I knew that when Jinora and Kai got kidnapped, that they were going to pull together, and they were going to save them, and guess what they do? And it was so boring. It's so predictable. I don't think the storytelling is good when halfway through the mini-story that you're telling, because this episode is pretty much like a mini-story that has, little threads that may go out through the rest of the series. Like the romance between Kai and Jinora, or, Boomy becoming a better airbender or whatever. There's little threads of that are going out, to the entire season, but basically this was a mini-story they were telling. And when you're halfway through a story and people who are reading or experiencing your story can predict the rest of it, I just don't think that's a good storytelling perspective or storytelling technique or just a good story in general. So, there's that, and then Jinora becoming the spirit whisperer and just she's like, I need help, spirits, after they just established the fact that there were no spirits in the area, but then she goes, I need help, spirits, and then the spirit just appears. I was like, what? You just established, literally 2 minutes ago. There were no spirits in the area. How did you summon a spirit? Are you a warlock? You can't just summon spirits out of nowhere, I don't think. Spirits have to willingly come. They're sentient creatures. So, I'm not sure I like that aspect of Jinora and her spirit her spirit powers, or whatever you want to call them. It seems like these kind of abilities are just her personal, that character's personal Deus Ex Machina to just fix whatever problem she finds herself in. Oh, Kai and the Airbenders are gone. What can I do? Jinora, become a spirit ghost and go find out where they are. Okay. Oh no, I got kidnapped. What am I gonna do? I'll just summon my spirit friends. Spirit summon and save them. I'll save myself because I'm in trouble. It's just, I don't know. There wasn't really a great fight scene here either. I guess, that's not true, because there is a little bit at the end when all the Airbenders go and they fight the the people that kidnap Jinora and Kai, and that's kind of cool. And it's like I like to see Milo and Iki. How I like to see how powerful they are as Airbenders, even though Milo's like 5 years old, or like 6 or 7, and Iki's like 8 or 9. So it's cool to see them and how powerful they are. Of course, we got that moment where the guy who had his head shaved can feel like the net coming, and he like kind of dodges out of the way. That was pretty cool. I like that. And it kind of ends with everyone's saved and everyone's cool, and it's so great, and yay. But I really hope something I haven't mentioned yet is Jinora. This whole like mini subplot of Jinora talking to Kai, and she's like, my dad doesn't think I'm old enough to get Airbender tattoos, and he's like, you should convince her to. And then she tries, and Tenzin's like, no, don't. You're too little. You're a little girl. And at the end of the episode, she's like, well, so can I get tattoos, Dad? I saved everyone, or I proved that I'm great. So I like that. I hope they do that. It'd be cool to see, somebody else besides Tenzin have the Airbender tattoos and become like a master Airbender. Because I think she's right. When she told off Tenzin, like, look, I'm as good as Airbender as you. I have a better spirit connection to the spirits than you do. It was kind of mean, but still, she was right. So I think it's time for a new airbending master to rise. I like Jinora, everything except a very small portion of her spirit abilities. But other than that, the whole character I really like. Just cut out Kai. I hope he gets run over by a bus still. But if I just ignore him, she's a really, really great character. And I hope they go far with her. So that's pretty much the end of the episode. Like I said, as you could tell, there were some things I really did like. There were some things that I couldn't stand, which basically is Kai. I fucking hate him so much. God, I hate him. I hope somehow at the end of the season everybody loses their airbending powers. Except for, you know what? No. I hope somehow only Kai loses his airbending powers, and he still ends up thrown in prison. Because I don't like him. I don't like him as a character. I don't think he's good as a character. I don't think he adds anything to the story at all. I think he's just a forced fake love interest for Jinora, and I hate him. And I wish he was gone. But, as you can tell, I'm still ranting about him. That's the thing I don't like about the episode, as well as the predictability of it. So that's episode 7. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about my analysis of it, as well as these 2 episodes. We're already halfway through the season. But once again, Nintendo just totally doesn't know how to market TV shows, so who knows? But we're halfway through the season, so I guess we'll pick up next week, when I guess maybe the only other thing they could do now is Team Anti-Avatar catches up to Korra. So we've got to be getting close because they know where she is now. So hopefully that means there'll be more Lin awesomeness. So stay tuned to next week for when I do a review of episodes, 8 and 9. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I will see you then. So, farewell.